this area. We all grew up together. We've known each other most of our life. So it makes for a very great team. And our team in the East, the North Carolina team specifically, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland is one of the most respected teams within auction.com's umbrella. And we're currently advertising, I think it's more about 25,000 distressed residential bank-owned foreclosure homes. Of course, that number's changed. Foreclosures have dropped. Many of them will cancel. But just so we don't steer away from the focus today, we will be focusing on bank-owned properties. These are going to be properties, as I'll explain, that have already gone through foreclosure. A third party did not buy them, and now the bank is left to get rid of that property because, as we know, they're not in the business to own nor manage any of these properties themselves. We've sold over about 430,000 properties and about almost $50 billion in real estate since 2007. The team and the people specifically I educated in 2019 went on to purchase $9.1 million worth of property in 2019. So these education courses, one, I applaud every person on this call for what you're doing, being on these calls, taking the time out of your schedule to contribute to your education, to absorb the knowledge that you have around you. There's never a group I speak with that I do not promote, whether I'm speaking to a REIA organization or not. There's not an opportunity that I don't take. Every chance I get, I'm promoting REIA because that is a great hub and financially really a great investment in your future. So you guys all know that, ladies all know that are on the call. But thank you for what you do and the opportunities you provide for companies like us, like auction.com. So I'm here. What does Tim do? Tim is, I will say, a concierge in many ways. I'm kind of here to help you reach your investment goals, to fill in the gaps, to be a point of contact. So if you have a question, you say, I don't know who to call, but if I call Tim, he's not going to give me legal advice. He's not going to act like being a lawyer, but he's going to tell me without giving a personal referral of the type of business or who I need to see or what I need to do. And then I'll leave that up to you to look for recommendations within your the TRIA organization. We're here to help you find exclusive deals. We only represent about 20 at the max 30% of all distressed properties in the country, though that is a big fraction. And as of right now, it looks like we have foreclosure sales in North Carolina coming back around in June. They could get canceled. This is very much a fluid process. I live in Virginia, so I was sent a picture this morning of a 4-hour line to get in TJ Maxx. People are waiting to go shopping. So I don't know what's going to happen with this. And we're going to allow you to bid from anywhere. I want everyone on this call to pay attention because it's not something I'm going to focus on this call, but it's something you definitely want to be interested in or want to think about if this is you. If you are a buyer and you buy foreclosures or interested in buying foreclosures in, say, other states other than North Carolina, we have technology now. We're the first company ever to introduce this technology. And in most states, and soon Virginia and Maryland, within probably the next 6 months, you'll be able to bid live at auction in Virginia and Maryland and Tennessee right now from the comfort of your home on a phone. You don't have to pay an agent to represent you at the auction, so you can buy properties at the auction. It's called remote bidding. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but if you have questions, ask me about it. I'm going to try to stay on task here. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to check chat real quick once again, just see if there's any other questions.
I have questions for you, Tim, if you don't see them. You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you go with those.
After you win the bid, what costs and concerns can come thereafter?
I will address that under the due diligence stage because, as you well know, due diligence is the same for a foreclosure or a bank-owned property, but generally speaking, and this has come straight from some attorneys, they will say that the bank-owned process, if you're going to take a risk, is a little less risky because some of this stuff has been taken care of. So we will address that. Thank you for asking that question.
All right, we'll hold that one.
Go
Hi,
into
I
it.
am a licensed realtor in North Carolina and have clients who want to do a property through auction.com. Can I help them with this?
You most certainly can, and that's in the text in the chat today. I want to speak with any brokers, agents, brokers. I'll speak with your team under you if you like. And I really want to work with agents and brokers within these states to develop presentation decks that are specific to their state. So yes, I can tell you how to do that from an investor standpoint. I can tell you what investors pay a good agent just to show up at an auction, even if they don't win it. I get paid about $150 just to show up and bid with someone else's money. If I win it, it's $1,500 to $2,000. And that's from my client, from the person I'm helping.
Awesome.
So, I mean, there are ways to do that. We could have a whole nother session on that. It's
Well,
just
maybe we will. Maybe we will.
yeah, it's just how you build. I mean, for instance, just since we brought this subject up, there's a buyer in North Carolina in Charlotte. I won't say his last name, but his first name is Carlos. He went through a couple trainings, went through a workshop. Within 45 days of doing that, he bought 8 properties across the country, bank-owned properties, REO properties, which we're going to talk about today. 8 properties, and he paid a guy in California $1,200 per property to bid for him online, because you will find investors are very busy. They have so much going on. So many of them, you know, are managing. Some of them are managing their construction jobs. They're looking for other deals. They're dealing with wholesalers because they're trying to take in and review every deal they can get. It's worth $1,000 for me to send somebody to auction to buy a property. If they buy it for what I want to buy it for and we get it, I have no problem paying them $1,000 because that's worth it to me. So yes, there are a lot of ways other than a posted broker co-op on our site to make money. And it has a lot to do with how you conduct and structure your business as a broker, an investor, or whatever it may be.
Awesome. I thought North Carolina evictions were on hold until August.
That's another thing I was going to say. They probably are. It does when you
they are.
Gotcha. Exactly. I know you know that. And that's what I was going to say. State by state, there are little nuances. The bank owned buy-in process in general, of course, is coronavirus and is new to all of us. So yes, when it comes to those type of things, you're probably going to know what's going on in your state before it funnels back to us and we make the changes, unless the trustee being the law firm that's representing the foreclosure side, lets us know that they're being canceled. So yeah, I appreciate that information, and you are probably right. It does vary by state.
Yeah,
I know
absolutely.
Our governor in Virginia is catching a bunch of junk.
Just one more question. When is remote bidding coming to North Carolina?
Remote bidding, probably, I hate to say never because I'm not like that. North Carolina, as you all know, or the ones that know how the foreclosure process works, is different than any state in the country because it has this 10-day upset bid period. Most likely you're going to see remote bidding only in the states that will accept 100% of funds at the day of the sale. And North Carolina won't do that because they have that 10-day upset bid period, which is another conversation about foreclosure processes. So I honestly, it will be a long time. That's why I said if you bid in bordering states like Virginia, maybe some in Maryland, Tennessee, if you go to www.auction.com, so auction.com, and then just put /remote bid. So auction.com /remote bid. It'll tell you which states it's in. We have that in. It'll give you all that information, how to create an escrow account. And I'll spare you those details today, but yes, will not be in North Carolina, but if you buy into other states, it's going to be actually a game-changing kind of tool. Any other questions before we move on? All right. All right, so just a little quick overview of the REO sales process and how it gets to a bank-owned property in case you don't know. So basically what happens on the foreclosure side, which you're going to see on, if you're facing your screen, the left side, is the homeowner defaults. The beneficiary, lender, or servicer will send notice to them. It will be assigned to a trustee or to a law firm. Occasionally, a substitute trustee such as auction.com will get that file. So what that means is in North Carolina, say for instance, Brock and Scott, one of the big foreclosure law firms in North Carolina and Virginia as well, they will get, they will have the foreclosure file because it is a legal process that they have to go through. There's going to have to be represented by an attorney. However, the company is going to tell them, hey, auction.com is going to advertise this property for us. And in North Carolina, we conduct those sales, not in every state. It doesn't work like that in every state. But North Carolina, if it is on our site and it's a foreclosure sale at the courthouse, we will be conducting it. If it's an online sale on our site, of course, you're going to be bidding through our site. So once you excuse me, click on my screen here. All right, so once that all gets set up, a date is set, it goes to a foreclosure auction. When the foreclosure auction happens, one of two, well, actually in North Carolina, one of a few things happen. It could come to auction and cancel or postpone. What we're going to focus on is if it comes to auction and does not sell to anyone, it reverts back to the bank. So the auction, it comes to sale, opening bids $100,000. Nobody there wants to bid over 80,000. It, what they call, reverts or sells back to the bank. And then at that point, you see sold to beneficiary, it reverts. The process continues. If you're a VIP on some of those processes, you can talk to me later. There may be opportunities for you to still bid on those properties shortly after auction. North Carolina is just so strange, and you want to consult an attorney about that. And then we hopefully sell it online for the bank. The great thing about this process, and many investors think along this lines, is, well, why would I want to bid for one online? I went to the auction and they wanted too much for it then. Exactly right. And that is a fair assumption. And it's fair to think that they're going to want more for it when it goes online. The truth of it is yes, they may, but at some point, they're going to have to take a loss on that property if no one's willing to pay it. And that's why they use sites like ours, because they find out they get about 15% better return is the most recent statistic on properties they advertise through this process versus, hey, there's no advertising other than the law firm posting it on our website or something like that. So that's where we come in. And this, what you're seeing on the screen now, bank may choose it online to list it online. That is where we're focusing at this point. So a quick overview, a home defaults, it goes to foreclosure, and after foreclosure, it goes to, I prefer to say bank-owned REO. There's subtle differences, but still bank-owned property. Bank-owned properties, you can look these up on our website or our app. I do recommend downloading our app. What you're going to see today is our website as I navigate through some things teaching you this. So how it displays, as you all know, can be different on your desktop versus your devices. The property's already moved through the auction process. And this gets into the question a moment ago about due diligence. And we'll start talking about this here shortly. Is many of the liens and title issues have not survived the foreclosure sale. What that means in general, and first off, I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to give you legal advice. Anything I say is through my understanding of speaking with attorneys and investors in North Carolina, and I'm not going to step out of that realm. And if anyone wants to correct me, please do. So many liens and title issues have not survived the foreclosure sale. So what that means is, take for instance, taxes, back taxes, maybe a federal tax lien, judgments, assessments, maybe water bills, depending on the jurisdiction. There can be different liens and judgments against this property that they want to try to act on when this goes through foreclosure and get paid for, and rightfully by law will be paid for. So for instance, if there's $1,000 in back taxes, the bank is probably going to settle that. They're either going to pay it or they're going to work with the state and settle it. If it's a federal tax lien, they may work to settle that, opposed to wait the 120 days or the term or period of time for them to either redeem that property, which the IRS can do that, or, you know, that I'm not going to claim to know how exactly they work that. But my point is once the bank buys it back, takes ownership after the auction, they're the ones that are going to settle most. I'm not going to say everything. And the number one thing that screams an exception to me is always HOA and COA fees. Often when you buy a bank-owned property, you will sign or have an addendum stating that you have to pay those, and many HOAs will require for you to be approved, which auction.com tries to work on that for you on our end. That's one of the things we do for the HOA to approve you, so the contracts and everything go through, because some of those do require HOA approval. So to the question of due diligence, which we'll talk about more in a moment, yes, I have an attorney. Here's how I work. In Virginia, I went to an attorney when I started investing. He was a referral. He's also an investor himself and a developer, so I know he knows real estate. I negotiated the terms of my deal with him. So as long as he does my closings, my title checks are free, and he'll close all my deals for $500. Unless I expedite it, and then he'll charge me some sort of a little bit more fee to close it. And that's whether it's $100,000 house or $1 million house. Now, if he gets into too much work or deed issues and has to send people to court, yeah, it may cost a little bit more, but have an attorney do that. If you're going to be in real estate and you're going to buy, you're going to flip, you're going to buy and hold, eventually, unfortunately, you're probably going to need an attorney. So you might as well have one from the beginning that knows you, knows your business model, knows how you work, knows how you buy, and can help advise you. That's my best advice. You can use a title abstractor to do your title searches, but I don't know how much they can advise you on things like what will attach, what I can settle, what you should pay, what you shouldn't pay. So
hey, Tim, do you mind if I interrupt you for a minute?
No, actually, I was going to ask you to. So yes, please, if you want to speak on that subject, you're the subject matter on that.
So first of all, Tim is correct. A title abstractor can send you a copy of a title search, but they can't give you any advice. But we have a question to that point, which asks, can Kathy talk to liens, title issues not surviving the foreclosure? So that's in North Carolina. A foreclosure will wipe out any junior liens. Now, what that means is any liens that were subsequent in time to the lien that was foreclosed. Key point, because what you may not know is if it's the first or second lien foreclosing. Normally, it's the first. However, you don't have a way of knowing that without a title search, as Tim said. So if it happens to be the second lien foreclosing, then there would be liens that would still survive. In addition, federal tax liens and state tax liens survive a foreclosure. So everything else will be wiped out, judgments, junior liens, but it's definitely worth having a title search, because I have had clients who have unwittingly bought property with liens. So that's the questions, Tim, that I wanted to interrupt for. Whenever you're at another good breaking point, I do have other questions that have been chatted. So just let me know when you're ready for those.
Sure. I'll do that. And thank you. And I'm glad you're on the call and can speak to that. That's perfect. Yeah, so you're exactly right there. Now, again, to get on task, what we're focusing on is after that is going through the auction, the bank now owns it. So just like if you had bought it at the auction, that bank's going to be responsible for satisfying, working on some of those liens. And they have people that will work on that. Now, will that be reflected in the reserve price or their cost of the house, of that residence? Sure, it will. And it may affect the reserve online, but we'll talk about that. Let me click back on this slide and get moving. Properties may be vacant and interior access may be available. We'll look at that. Otherwise, I assume that they are occupied, at least with squatters. The house I went in the other day, I have to board up now for someone because they definitely are starting to turn that into some sort of drug house or watch house, watching police or something. So yeah, so do be careful there. And weekly auctions. These auctions are every week, multiple times. I think in North Carolina, they run, I think, Tuesday through Thursday, but they're 2.5 days. If there is active bidding, they will have overtime periods. That way, just because of the way investors working with their schedules, you know, that way someone's not getting beat out by the fastest internet connection or the person that can sit by their computer all day. So do know that we try to make these auctions as fair as possible and as competitive as possible. So what I would like to do, the next session is just talking about a couple tools we have, and then that includes digging into the website, pulling a house, and actually walking through the bidding process. So I'm going to go in and open it up for those questions you mentioned a moment ago. And if that's something I'm going to cover, we'll just table it until I get to that.
You got it. Okay. Are all liens disclosed prior to the sale so the buyer knows what they're getting into? Well, I think you just addressed that about needing to get a title search done.
Yeah, exactly. Through an attorney.
Okay. What does it mean bidding through your site on auction.com?
What we're going, and that's what we're here today. Today we are looking at bank-owned foreclosures, or bank-owned properties, and these are properties that the bank owns that they allow us to advertise and conduct their auction. Just like, say, I had an estate and I wanted to get Counts Realty Auction, which is a place up here in Virginia that I look at houses at sometimes. I can hire them to sell that house for me and auction it off. Banks are just doing that with auction.com. They're signing a contract with us to offer their properties through our site, and in return, we act as a middleman. You might hear that term quite a bit, but we're a middleman. So we help facilitate getting all your paperwork together, making sure everything gets to the bank. We play liaison if you have questions, and we just help facilitate getting the closing through and being a point of contact. And that's what I'll show you. Those properties, we have an auction platform, and people like yourself can bid on those properties on our platform. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today.
So when you see the foreclosure, you go on auction.com and see the list of foreclosures, can you see if they're initiated by a bank or a lender? I think that's what this question means. I'm having a little trouble understanding it. It says the list of foreclosure in the auction, are they initiated by bank or lender?
Well, I mean, we work with lenders, banks, beneficiaries. I mean, whoever is foreclosed on that property and that is contracted us, that's who we work with. I mean, the lien holder in general is the one that initiates that process because of default. You just really, and this is going to be kind of a pass it off kind of answer, but when it comes to that type of stuff, that it really gets into, okay, who is the bank that's selling this? Okay, is it a first mortgage or is it a second mortgage I'm bidding on? That is something for an attorney to advise you on. Because I can't see looking on the site that it's Wells Fargo offering this property. I could probably dig online for 5 minutes and find that out. Go to Zillow, sometimes it would be on there, you'll find it. But yeah, it's the lender typically is who we're dealing. That's our clients or the lenders, whether it's a beneficiary, if you want to call it a bank, beneficiary, mortgage holder, mortgage company, whatever it may be.
I have two more, and these may be things that you're going to cover. So
Yep.
The first one is, how or where can we find the final bid during the outbid period? I guess that means upset bid period.
I don't want to get too much off track today on the processes because it can get confusing in North Carolina. The outbid period has to do with foreclosure courthouse sales. There is no such thing as an outbid period on bank-owned properties, and you will find specifically in North Carolina, based off the research and data I have, that there's plenty of opportunity to buy these bank-owned properties just because of
so just as a reminder, everyone, the topic today is bank-owned properties. If you all have other questions, please continue to send them and suggestions. We can get Tim back again on a different topic, but he's trying to stick with bank-owned today. All right, the last question, which may be sort of similar, Tim, is how can we add or edit the county list at tracker.auction.com website?
I'll go through all that. That's a great question. And some of that's what we're going to start into now. But once I get into showing the website, I turn into the investor and I say, hey, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. This is how I use the site. So we'll definitely cover that. So I'm going to do, if there's no more questions at this point, I'm going to go in and touch on
if you want it.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Do hedge funds sell their foreclosures via non-performing notes on your site?
No, we used to, and I mean, we always want to hear about large portfolios, but the truth is, it's hard to come together unless it's, I mean, thousands of properties. So yes, in the past we have, yes, we are open to it, and we have people that can have those discussions with you. But I'm not going to mislead anyone and say, yeah, send me your information. I'll send you on. It's definitely happening. What you're seeing on our website is going to be some sort of financial institution, such as a bank, mortgage company, beneficiary, something like that. Not so much a hedge fund or any conglomerate of the sort. All right. So one thing I want to touch on, I mean, since we all use apps nowadays, our app is pretty great in North Carolina. If you save a property, the nice thing about doing this is you can track these properties from anywhere on your phone. On your laptop, it'll do the same thing, but you know, unless you're like me, you may not carry your laptop everywhere. So just the same things you do on the website, you can do on your app. For the most part, you save these properties, it'll give you updates. It'll let you know if it canceled. It'll let you know if it postponed. It'll let you know if the reserve was posted. It'll let you know if the estimated credit bid on a foreclosure auction was posted, things like that. And we give you access to exclusive property data. When I say that, it is all information we have is provided by third parties, analytics. So there is no better research on your market than yourself as an experienced broker agent, or someone that you trust and that knows how to do proper comps in your market. We all know, just like the house I'm looking at now, I can go one block down the street and my house would jump probably $15,000 to $20,000 in value over what it is on my street. So there's no substitution to your own due diligence. And I call that free due diligence, because you can get your agent to do that work for you. Or like I said, you as a broker agent, I say agent a lot because I'm in Virginia, but as a broker in North Carolina, you can do that. The tracker, which I had a question on a moment ago, is you're exactly right. And the reason this Texas is here, my friend Renee made this presentation. I just have it changes. You can use auction.com/FTC, auction.com/tracker for whatever state you want, or tracker US. I'm going to show you on our website how to tailor those preferences to what you want, to the counties you want, things of that nature. There is, well, I'll step away from that because I had to do it foreclosures. It is updated about every 15 minutes. You'll receive email statuses if you want to do so. You have, within our website, you'll be able to turn off notifications if you don't want to hear about commercial properties, things like that. I'll show you that because it's important to me as an investor. You link on this display, it'll link directly to our property display page. It'll pull up pictures. So this is a live PDF that will update itself, and it will take you directly to the website, and then, you know, get a sneak peek at pictures, details. You can download, sort, print, list, things like that. So here's what I would like to do. I'm going to show you this here, and then I'll show you on the website. And you can see my friend Renee's dashboard. When you go into auction.com, and I'm going to kick over to this screen. When you log in the top right corner, and you should be able to see the website, it says my dashboard. Under my dashboard, there's a couple things I fill out as an, you know, so I make sure I'm getting what I want sent to me instead of a bunch of stuff I don't need. Now, here is where the counties come in. You can see I'm in Central Virginia. So auction.com hat off for a second. If anyone's interested in Central Virginia, I'm always here to help. So Lynchburg, Virginia, Bedford County, Virginia, Amherst, Campbell County, Appomattox. Actually need to add Nelson in there. I'm interested in anything that's 300,000 or below. Both, of course, $300,000 house here in Raleigh would probably be 55. Foreclosure, I can pick exactly what I'm interested in. As an investor, I know auction.com only has 20 or 30% of the assets in the country. So you know what? I want to see every potential deal that I can see in the markets I'm interested in. That's why I have both. That's why I look at occupied properties, because I'll tell you right now, if you're going to buy bank owned and foreclosure and you're adverse to buying houses that are occupied, then you're going to greatly reduce the opportunities you have, because so many of them are going to be occupied. Now, in the bank owned process, which that's what we're focusing on today, you will find more vacant houses. You'll find some with open houses. We'll look at that. But in general, when you're setting up your preferences, if you want to see everything possible, keep this as broad as possible and then just save it. You'll see those subscriptions are down here. I can take and unsubscribe from those counties. So if I want to stop getting information on those counties, I can do so. The other thing I look at, saved assets, not going to insult your intelligence. Bidding, I'll touch on this and we'll go to a slide to look at this. These are going to be all the bank-owned properties, which we're talking about today, that you have registered to bid on. So when you click on this tab, it's going to show what you're bidding on, where the current, and we'll see this in some slides because I can't walk you through it, where the current bid is, what the bid history is, whether that bid is an auction.com bid, which I'll talk about a little bit because we do bid against you. I think you'll actually understand that better once I share how that works. And just everything you need to know about the auction, when's it going to end, so forth and so on. Those will all show up under this tab. Offers, these are properties that deal more with foreclosure, or well, actually some bank owned, where you're allowed to make pre-auction offers. These are going to be bank owned properties that have a button that allow you to make a direct offer to the bank. Our deal with these banks is they need, if this hits the reserve and somebody makes a direct offer that's acceptable, that they have to accept it on at least 95% of the time, because we do not want you folks making direct offers just being accepted and then getting turned down every time. So you'll see some of that. Well, hopefully, if there's some in North Carolina, we'll be able to look at that today. This is new, and this is important for you folks that buy under multiple entities. I'm showing you all this because part of the time-consuming thing is every time, you know, I go in here, I don't buy from auction.com because of conflict of interest, or I have to get it cleared. But what I do is, excuse me, sorry about that. I want to set up whether I'm buying this as Tim Johnson with all my vesting information, whether I'm buying this as American IRA FBO for the benefit of Tim Johnson, like a self-directed IRA, or am I buying this in 123 Jump Street LLC? I can set all these up, these profiles up, so when I go to purchase, I just click on how I want it vested, because I'm buying this one under my self-directed IRA, or I'm buying it under LLC, and it will populate all those fields for you. So it makes it much easier. Many of these advancements simply come from investors asking us to do this. Post-auction, it gives you some purchased information. So these tabs, bidding, offers, and post-auction, have to do with bank-owned properties. I'm not going to talk much more about that because it's just setting up your account. What we really want to dig in now is exactly how these purchases work, exactly how to search, what to find in these listings, what information we can share with you, and go from there. So let me kick back over to this PowerPoint. All right, so what I want to do is, we'll see this on the website. Some of the new stuff we've added for your convenience when you're searching is we do have properties across the country now starting at $1 opening bid. Does it mean the reserve is $1? No, it doesn't, but they're really low. Most of those houses, I think, sell for around $35,000 to $50,000 that I've seen, or at least the ones I've looked at. So $1 starting bid, you can look at those, reduce reserve. So I can physically see the banks, in my mind, I just think motivated to move it because they're reducing the reserve. They're not taking a counter offer. They're actually, you know, setting it up to take a loss probably. The reserve disclosed. So if I only want to look at properties that the reserve is disclosed, I can look at those. And then luxury. again, when I'm searching for properties as an investor, I want to see everything I can see that's available in the markets I want to buy in. Specifically, you know, if I can turn it into a duplex at least or something like that. So these are new enhancements. That's why I mentioned that to you. You will also notice coming up in June, anytime you click on a property in North Carolina, it's going to give you a banner that actually directs you to our educational page. So as we mentioned a moment ago, if we're hosting a training in North Carolina on foreclosures, and maybe you need that information and you want to see it before, you know, maybe I speak for TRIA on the topic, you can study on some of those free webinars. They are free. We don't charge you. We're not some membership. And as you can tell, I refer so much back to Triangle and to the other REIA groups, because that's really your source of local, very, very specific information. All right, so I'm going to run through here. I'd rather show you on the website how to navigate. Due diligence, we talked about a little bit, but just to review it, you want to get some sort of preliminary title report. I will never buy a house without getting one, and I'm going to tell you now, do not buy a property online, win it, and then say, oh, I'm going to do a title search and expect to back out and not be penalized. So let me run that by you again. If you are going to bid and buy a property, I mean, of course, this is your own prerogative, but me as an investor, my title search, at least if I'm bidding online, comes before I go bid. Because if I win and then I find a problem with that title, I'm at risk of losing $2,500. Everyone clear on that? We'll talk about it a little more in the auction, but due diligence is something that's really important, and anyone else can speak to this. In a foreclosure or a bank-owned situation, when you're buying at an auction, there's no, hey, I need to do an inspection now after you bought it, or hey, I need to, my title search, it isn't good. You know, the title search didn't come back clean. I want to back out, unless you're okay being penalized. So do your due diligence. I mean, legal due diligence with an attorney. Examine the recent sales and price trends. So many of you on this call, I would say, are probably borderline experts or professionals in doing that. Evaluate the property as best you can. And we'll see this, if you are an agent and it has access available, use your licensed, I keep saying agent, broker, use that license, call that 1-800 number, get a lockbox key. I will tell your story when it comes to agents making money. I will not, and I would not, because I recommend all agents, I'm not going to show up at a house and show you that house and unlock it for you unless we have some strong agreement. You know, I have no problem saying, hey, I'm going to get that lockbox code for you, but my showing fee is $50 for me to get that and meet you out there, my time and so forth, because you're not selling, you're just opening a door and letting them look at it. There is a guy in Mississippi that was trying, and evidently successful for some, charging, and this, I would never do this. This is ridiculous, but this is the gospel. He was charging $500 to $600 to show someone a house. It's insane. But there are plenty of people who say, hey, you know, and if it's me, if I'm an investor, I'm going to take you out to lunch. I'm going to kick you $25, $50 for your time, because I understand that. That goes back to setting up your business as an agent and demanding that you're compensated for what you do for a living. That's why you got your license. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, you need a licensed agent to show you that house. You and I don't have a buyer's agreement. I don't mind showing it to you, but there's a $50 showing fee. And most people will pay that kind of stuff. Evaluate the property. Look at the upside potential. I'm not going to insult your intelligence on this, but really examine your market. What's going on? The house I'm looking at, it's not the best area, but you know, 2 blocks down the road, they're building a brand new state-of-the-art police station. So that's going to clean up that area. Yeah, I'm going to hear some sirens, but I'd rather hear the sirens leaving my neighborhood than coming into my neighborhood. Research the zoning requirements. Check your liability insurance. You can get insurance, quick claim deeds on these and title insurance on some of these. You just have to look into it. One more thing I'm going to use these slides for, and then we're going to dig into the website, is this for the registration property process. I tell you what, I'm going to pause right here. I noticed there's some chat. If we want to field some questions at this point, I will.
The only thing I have is someone was asking what you should expect to pay for a title search. I can't answer. Our firm charges $165 for a title search, which I believe is fairly average. However, if you're asking just for a current only search for a bid process, which will just reveal any liens, and it's a title search is a 60-year search. If you just need a current owner search to tell you if what liens are there now, our firm does that for $50. I can't speak for other lawyers, but that's
now. And I ask this question all the time, and what you'll find is a lot of lawyers err on the side of caution because of what was just explained. It depends on the how involved that search is, and they'll tell you generically. I usually honestly hear $250 to $350. However, if like me, I found the attorney I wanted to work with, I offered to pay him for an hour of his time, but because someone referred me to him, he gave an hour for free. And he said, I know exactly what you need. You need a fee structure. You need to know when you build these deals, how much it's going to be. He said, hey, I'll charge you $100 a title search. If you close on it, I won't charge you anything. And it's $600 or $500 per closing. So it's nothing wrong with having a conversation with an attorney and explain to them what you want to do, how you'd like to work with them, not use them, work with them, and maybe get a fee structure. They understand you're in business and you kind of need that. It can't be a guessing game every time you go into a closing. So that's my advice on attorneys. Any other questions?
That's all that I have.
All right. Perfect. So I want to show you this because in the slides I can show you, I can't show you by walking you through it. So we'll go into the listings on the page, but on each listing that's a bank-owned property, you're going to see this register for auction. You're going to see when the bidding begins, how long the auction is, and the opening bid. Once you click register for auction, it's going to take you to this page. And this is important because you're going to put a $2,500 bid deposit. When I say bid deposit, you are putting the equivalent of an incidental hold on your credit card, unless that's changed, which I don't think it has. Once that auction ends, whether you're the winner or you did not win, it will release, and the auction ends on Thursday, it will release all of those deposits on that Saturday, and it should credit back into your account based on your bank's policy sometime that week. We don't hold your money. If you win the auction, we're going to want real funds. We don't want a credit card, things like that. So when you see this, it's ask for your credit card information, and it reminds you a $2,500 cancellation fee will be charged. So again, I can't say this enough. Due diligence needs to be something that's done prior to. If you have questions about, hey, I have a pre-approval letter through a bank, I'm not saying financing is not available on these properties. However, it will tell you if it is, and you need to contact me and I will put you in touch with someone else, or contact the REO department for that property and say, hey, are these funds acceptable? You do not want to go into a close with a pre-approval letter from a bank and it's a as-is property cash deal, and then all of a sudden they say, well, you can't, there's no inspections. You can't do that. And then you lose $2,500 just because you didn't check on if it was a appropriate way to purchase, if the funds you had were approved. So keep that in mind. We'll talk a little bit about that and how to know if mortgages are available. We can talk a little bit about hard money, self-directed IRAs, because some of that stuff is acceptable. So once you've started, I was talking earlier, you'll be able to track in your bidding tab in your, excuse me, under your dashboard at the top of the auction.com screen. It's going to show the current bid, the bid increment. It's going to say buyer's premium, because on these properties, as you'll see on the listings, some of them have buyer's premium, AKA auction.com commission. So if it's a 3% buyer's fee on $100,000, you're going to pay $103,000 plus closing fees. And it totals some of this, your total purchase price, earnest money, cost breakdown. It talks about bid history, so you can look in here and see if it's your bid or counter bid. This is where I want to talk a little bit about counter bidding. If you bid on a property with auction.com, we are often either setting, we at times have members of the bank setting with us on a call with us, watching the same version of the software we're watching and running and orchestrating these auctions, and they are making real-time decisions. So think about this. In North Carolina, and some of you may have been in one of those meetings, if I sat and I ask by a show of hands how many people in here have bought at a foreclosure auction, if 10 people raise their hand and say, yeah, that I actively bid or buy at foreclosures, when I ask that same group of people, out of you 10, how many of you bid or buy actively online, about half of them drop their hands. The number one reason is there's a misconception with these investors that, well, one, a lot of them are old school and it's technology based, but secondly as well, if it didn't sell at auction, it's more than I want to spend for it anyway. And they just kind of kick themselves out of it. The last deal I talked to a guy about buying online, he bid on the property. He was not that, this was in Charlotte, was not the high bidder. He was countered. He accepted the counter from the bank because the bank said, hey, you know, it's not the reserve, but if you'll go up a little bit more, we'll take it, which we'll elaborate on a little bit more in a minute. And he bought it, rehabbed it. And I asked him this on the fly because I like asking, because sometimes you don't get the answers you want to hear, but then sometimes you get answers like this. He rehabbed it, finished it, and I think on roughly somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 total investment, he made $89,000 when all was said and done. So I don't know about you, and I think that was in 8 months. I don't know about you, but $80,000 in 6 months, 6 to 8 months to me on a house I bought online, you know, that I sat at home and bid on, that's not too bad. For me, I don't know about your models, but I'll take that any day. I'll put 80 grand in my pocket almost anytime. So the thing to remember when we'll talk about bid strategy is that, so here's what happens when you bid live. If you're the high bidder, it'll let you know, but that the reserve wasn't reached. Do you want to bid again? This is where bid history comes in, because you may or may not want to bid against yourself. You follow me? You want to be able to see, okay, I made that bid of 100,000. Somebody else or auction.com made the one of 110, because it'll say like counter offer or something. So at least I know if I bid again, I'm ultimately bidding against myself. All that aside, your number one goal, if you want to buy bank-owned properties on our site, is this. This is the strategy I use, and I tell everyone to use what Carlos used, and it worked for him. Is yes, I approach these auctions almost as if I'm probably not going to hit the reserve, but I know I want the bank to see my highest offer. If I get in the bidding war, I want, when this auction ends, when they let the bank know what the high bid is, even though the reserve wasn't met, I want me to be that person. So if my high bid's $90,000 and I make my first bid and it's setting at 45, I'm not going to quit the auction and say, well, if I can get it for 45, great. No, that's probably not going to happen. Banks will consider many of these institutions, 75 to 85% of their reserve value. So if they want 100,000 for it, and they've ran it 8 times on our site, because if you watched our site, I mean, I have a house on there now I've looked at in my market that's been on there 2.5 years, but the bank wants to keep advertising it on there. I've tried calling the bank, sending them letters, everything else, just doesn't work. You want the bank to see that, because they may accept $79,000, or they may take the $79,000 because it's the highest bid they've had in 10 auctions and say, hey, if you'll pay 82, we'll take it. And what I found, and I can't think what triangle of the nice kind of redheaded woman's name that was y'all's treasurer, I think, for a while. gosh, I can't, younger lady. Nonetheless, I spoke with her and
Stephanie Anson.
I think so. Is she an agent or broker
Yeah,
also?
she's a realtor and she's awesome. And she leads one of our other subgroups as well.
Yeah, I think if I'm correct, it's her. If you ask her, she had told me in a conversation, this was probably 2 years ago, we were talking about this very thing, and she spoke up and she said, I haven't met the reserve on the last 3 properties I bought from you guys. She was either countered or accepted her high bid. So the key to being successful at bank-owned auctions is this, and here's the mentality I take. I'm sitting at home in my pajamas bidding. I'm not having to go out. I'm not having to go stand in the weather. I'm not having to bid or look the same, good old boy that buys everything at auction. I don't have to stare him down every day because he's not buying on this platform. It's easy. It's less risk in general. Full disclosure, still get your due diligence done. It's a little less risk. I can sit at home, I have less competition, and you know what? They may accept my high bid. So I don't care if I want that house, if it goes through our auction platform 47 times because it's a federal backed loan and they demand that they try to get what's owed on the property for X number of auctions before they reduce it. There's all kinds of stipulations that govern that, and it goes institution by institution or the type of loan. I want to be consistent, diligent, and make sure I'm staying on top of that property, adjusting my offer in case the roof falls in or something like that. But on the same hand, I want them to consistently see I'm interested. So bid often and put your best foot forward on these auctions. You will see that the bid increments sometimes could take you out further than you want to be. Call the bank-owned department. Call me. I'll escalate something. I'll say, hey, she really wants to buy this property. They've looked at it. For instance, there was a house in Florida that a guy out of, actually, was it Raleigh? It may have been Cary. It was either Cary or Charlotte, actually. Bought a property in Florida, a vacation home. His neighbor is his friend's the neighbor to this property. They had told me and the auction agent, Tim, there's a foot of water in this property. Bank doesn't know that. Nobody really knows that. No inspection's been done. I said, I'll tell you what, get me pictures, write up a little dissertation, a paragraph or so, just saying, hey, they sent me pictures where it had been vandalized. You could obviously tell it's the correct house. They didn't go find some other house and take pictures of it. The bank dropped the reserve on that property $125,000. And he wound up buying it for $80,000 less than the max he was willing to pay for it. So my point here is information is power. If you have a property that you are adamant about, hey, it's no way this house is worth $100,000, one wall's missing out of it, and they don't know that. Get that information to me. We have direct contact with the trustees, with the banks. We have the relationships. We can show them the data and they will act on it. Nobody wants a house setting for another year that has a big hole in the roof taking in water. It's just going to depreciate quicker. So be diligent, be active, ask questions. You will see we bid against you. We do that intentionally because some people proxy bid. They'll put in a max bid and they'll walk away from it, and there has to be something in there to trigger that next bid. We absolutely do not bid the reserve value, and we do not participate in bidding over the reserve. We're not in the business to win auctions, inflate auctions, or anything. We want to get paid. So that's why we negotiate with the banks to try to get better deals for the bidders. That's why we come up with programs for the banks to say, hey, we're going to give you the top bidder information so you can have that data and make real-time decisions. We're going to give you software to let you set in and watch these auctions and give input. So for instance, if you do win an auction, you're going to have to fill everything out within 24, 48 hours. You're going to have to pay your due diligence money by a certain time. You're going to have a verification of funds. So if you have questions on this hard money work, Typically, hard money will not work if an inspection is required. If it's not required, it usually will work. That's kind of the rule of thumb. So your hard money lender, do you require an inspection, or are you truly buying as is, sight unseen? If you do require an inspection, maybe you need to talk to auction.com and get them to say, hey, I want to bid on this property. Here's what I have. Is there any chance that I can get my hard money lender in there before the auction? Maybe there's an agent or something you can call that would suffice for your hard money lender. Those are the type of things you have to look at. Conventional loans approval letters, do not ever assume you can buy a property on auction.com with a pre-approval letter from a bank. Only if it says owner financing available. If you're the highest bidder, it's going to kind of look like this. It's going to say you're the highest bidder. If you're the winning bidder, this has changed a little, but you're going to get a complete checklist and everything that you go in and that you need to get done in a timely manner. And here's how that's going to work. We're going to help you get everything together. We're going to present it to a bank. The bank is going to take about a week or so to even get to your package to review it. One thing I tell everyone to remember, and just consider it on all properties, banks have first right of refusal on these deals, if no other reason, if for OFAC logs. If they go to check you and for some reason some flags show up, maybe, and I hate to say this, you're a terrorist or you're on a terrorist watch list, they're probably not going to take that deal. If your money's coming from an undisclosed source or some sort of questionable entity, or maybe you're trying to launder money and they suspect that, it's going to get picked up, may get flagged, and they may not perform. So my point there is, if the bank just look at it, they have first right of refusal on this contract. So even if you meet the reserve, I always assume if I'm paying cash and I'm direct wiring on funds, it's going to close. But you have to think in your mind, okay, it may not, they have to check everything. And then we're going to close about 30 days after they've approved the contract. So really, you're closing, I've adjusted more like 45 days. We shoot for 30, but I want to be more realistic, like 45 days in closing these deals. All funds will most likely be wired. If you have an objection to that, you can work with the person assigned to your closing, which will come in the email with these documents, and they can work with you on that. After closing, you're going to pretty much take possession. No keys, or you don't know that you're going to get keys. There may be a lockbox that you have to contend with and get open. And if there's occupants, as we spoke to before, you need to know at this time when you can evict them. You want to talk to your local municipality, sheriff, police department about